Well, hello there, my friends. Hope it's a fabulous day wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I just hope you're enjoying your life. Safe, healthy, happy, and thriving in everything you do, here, there, and everywhere, whatever you're up to, whatever you're doing. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me. I'm Ken Ludwig. You are watching the New Thought Media Network. This is Vibrant Living. And again, I hope you're just enjoying yourself. I can see when I'm on, I can see I have a little thing up in the corner here, actually that corner, that tells me there are people watching and how many people are watching, but it doesn't tell me where you're watching from. So if you're out there and you want to make a comment, if you're watching on the StreamYard, or I think on my personal page, you make a comment, I can see it. You have a question, you have something you want me to talk about, you have a comment, you want to add to the conversation, that's fabulous. Today I said we're going to talk a little bit about God. It's a favorite subject of mine because it's one that gets reactions all the time. I thought I had this whole thing solved today with the reflection, and there is the reflection. Oh well, do your best with what you got, man. I used to have these. I had these glasses that were perfect, man. They're no reflection, but the thing was, they were so cheaply made that they lasted for about 2 weeks, and then they fell apart. And you got 2 pairs for $12. But your $12 was history in 2-3 weeks time, so it didn't work. So we're opening up the book here to our friend Ernest Holmes and this thing called you. And let's start right here. I am conscious that the divine spirit is acting through me. I am aware that the truth is making me free from any belief in want, lack, or limitation. There is no doubt or uncertainty in my mind. I have a feeling of security and of ability to do anything that I should do. I am not afraid of life or death, for I know that death is swallowed up in life. I know that every living soul will find complete emancipation sooner or later. Therefore, I stand amidst the eternal ways and let the winds of God blow full and free around me. That's almost poetic there by our good friend Ernest Holmes. I love that. I love just, and I just, I don't ever plan this. I just open the book and we'll see where it goes. And interesting that the last sentence mentions God, because God is what I wanted to talk about today. There's a great piece in the book that I have referenced almost every week here for a very long time. My old friend here, You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. There's a section there on God, and I really like it. And so I thought I'd read to you from that today, and we talk about the idea of God. I grew up a Catholic, and I find in the church that I attended in Colorado, Mile High Church, one of the things that we always found very interesting was that if you did a census of the people in the church, you would find people from virtually every religious path in that church. Everything. I knew a minister who was a practicing Muslim. I knew Jewish people. I knew Buddhists. I knew all people from all different walks of faith that were members of the church. The interesting thing to me was, though, that I always found that there were way more Catholics than anyone else that were part of this metaphysical community. I think part of that has to do with especially they were people. There weren't necessarily younger people. There were people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and older. And basically, hi Shay, how are you? Glad you joined me today from Colorado. Just as I'm talking about Colorado, fantastic. I think part of that has to do with, as Catholics, we grew up in this guilt-ridden regime of Catholicism, where we just were unworthy. Everything was, we were not good enough. We didn't deserve God. We begged forgiveness from God, and all of these things that really kind of made God the master of us, as opposed to God in, around, and through us. And I think as Catholicism progresses in your life, some of it ceases to make sense, especially some of the problems that the Catholic Church has had. We're not going to get into those. I actually saw something very interesting today that was about a pontiff, a pope, and boy, for the life of me, I can't remember his name. But this was a totally corrupt pope, totally corrupt. Wayne, how are you? And his predilection was for young boys, which was just, and I don't want to go there, but it was just an interesting piece of the puzzle. So some of this goes back centuries, really. But anyway, growing up a Catholic, you had this thing where you just weren't good enough for God. I have a good friend who always said, God was this guy in the sky, this white bearded man, bearded man in a cloud looking down on us, and he was always mad. He was always pissed off at something, and he was in particular pissed off at me. And so I went to confession and confessed my sins and was told to do so many Hail Marys and Our Fathers and do an act of contrition. And what was the other? The act of contrition was the one where you really, really affirmed that you were the puniest of the puny and that God should forgive you. Anyway, growing up in that environment, some of us left the church at different times in our lives. I actually left when I was 18 years old, and that's another story altogether. But I walked out of a midnight mass, which was Christmas Eve. I walked out of that mass during the sermon from the pastor of the church when he just was talking about money on Christmas Eve, and I was like, okay, that's enough for me. See you later, bye. And I left. And then I really had no religious affiliation whatsoever until I got into my my mid 40s and discovered metaphysics, and then at the end of my 40s discovered the science of mind in Mile High Church, and that changed everything. Yeah, exactly, Wayne. The Judeo-Christian mythology, and so much of it is really mythology. It's really very funny. The guilt and punishment vibe seeped into the mass consciousness. Shay, you're 100% right by saying that. And clearing that out is not necessarily an easy thing to do because it lives with you. If you went to Catholic schools, and I was lucky enough that I didn't go to Catholic grammar school where I had that beat into my head, but I did go to a Catholic high school. And to be bluntly honest, the Catholic high school experience was the best 4 years of my life. I mean, I really, truly loved going to that school. And my oldest and dearest friends are still from that part of my life, from my high school days. So it was a very important thing for me. But it also set the stage for me to move into the spiritual, which wouldn't really actuate for another 40 years. But that's when or 30 years, I guess, that's when I started to understand that there was more than this guy in the sky concept of God. And by the way, I just want to make a point here. Excuse me. There were at least a dozen or more world religions, if you will, major religions on the planet before Christianity. And virtually all of them have a story that is almost identical to the story of Christianity and the story of Jesus. Almost identical. But anyway, that's there's so much there to unpack. I'm not going there. I started teaching in the teen church at Mile High Church shortly after becoming a practitioner there. And that started in 2000. I became a practitioner in 2007. So 2008, I started teaching in the teen church, or maybe actually the end of 2007. And I became acutely aware that God was an interesting word, even with these teenagers. And it was, just they were high school age, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And one day, and I've said this before, but it's part of the conversation today. One day I was very conscious of the idea that the word God had baggage for a lot of people. Catholics in particular that were, my age and maybe a little younger than me, they had baggage with God. And young people, by osmosis or whatever, God didn't really resonate with them either. And I have a tendency, I don't know if it's my background or what, but I interchangeably use spirit, universe, God, the overarching creative intelligence, divine mind. I interchange them, but I say God a lot. Bottom line, I say God a lot. And one day going into meditation, I just had the intention. I was like, you know what? I would love to have another word or phrase that got the point across without using the word God or having people get a negative connotation from what I say. I closed my eyes, and I kid you not, it was less than 30 seconds that I got very clearly GOD, guidance on demand. That was like perfect for me. That's what we all talk about. I mean, praying is talking to God. Meditation is listening for the answers. And that is GOD, guidance on demand. So I loved using that, and I gave it to the kids, and that was fabulous, because that's where you go for the guidance. Wayne just contributed here in the chat, greatness on demand, GOD also. And that's just, that's a beautiful expression of God. But when I talk about how we, in the science of mind, we talk about the thing itself, what it does, how it works, and how we use it. And if we're going to use it, then God has to be something that is of use to us, if you will. And that is guidance on demand. So I started using that, and that resonated with the kids. And it also helped to reinforce the idea of daily spiritual practice, which I'll never forget. Dennis Manguso said, I asked a question one day. I said, what's the answer? And Dennis said, DSP, Ken. And DSP was daily spiritual practice. And I was like, wow. I said, I'm going to use that for the rest of my life, Dennis, but I'm going to give you credit always for that. And I always refer to it DSP. And that comes from young Dennis Manguso, who's like 30 years old now. God bless you wherever you are, Dennis. But anyway, I use that guidance on demand, and I used it very well. I've used it to my advantage for the kids and to get the point across to them of how God works in their lives. The oneness of life is that guidance on demand. So as time has gone by, and I think this is a function maybe of growing older, but I think as time has gone by, I've become more acutely aware of God in my life, of that guidance on demand, of overarching creative intelligence. I have become more and more and more alert to that, and wanting to make sure that I spend the time to align with that, to align with the overarching creative intelligence of the universe. Now I'm reading this book, and I discovered, by the way, that I read this book many, many years ago. It was written in 1988. I read it probably in the, at least 15 years ago. And what I discovered in reading it this time is that I never finished it last time. I found my bookmark at page 329. Now, the book is almost 600 pages long. So I read barely more than a half of it, and I had not gotten all the way through it. So I'm thrilled to be reading farther into it. I'm probably, I think I got like 150 pages left here before I'm done. And just a fabulous book, a fabulous, fabulous book. But part of it references the idea of being in vibrational alignment with the divine. And it is that idea you can't afford the luxury of a negative thought, truthfully, is a key to alignment with the quantum field, with the overarching creative intelligence, with the infinite ocean of possibilities. The key is no negative thinking. Now you can translate that however you want. I mean, there's a million different ways that we think negatively, and it's not just the simple, obvious stuff. It's the things that go through our mind that are negative. The things, how many of you are guilty of this? If you're like me, and I know I am, we think about a scenario that we would like to have unfold for us, and then we start to immediately think in terms of what exactly could go wrong, and we start thinking about all the things that could explode, all the things that could sidetrack our positive intention, our affirmative intentionality to sidetrack it. How many do that? I do it all the time, and I caught myself like twice yesterday doing it. Caught myself once this morning, in fact. Those are the negative thoughts. And the minute we go into that realm, we are no longer in alignment with the overarching creative intelligence. If you want, Einstein said it very clearly, if you want to experience the life that you want, you must look at what it is you desire, put yourself in vibrational alignment with that, and it can't help but manifest. Now, that's just a paraphrase of what he actually said, but that's the intent. You can't help but manifest what you align yourself with. Excuse me, vibrationally, but the cough and the sneezing and it's all seasonal allergies. Little side note. Seasonal allergy season is now legitimately 3 weeks longer than it was 20 years ago. Partially due to what? Or mainly due to what? Climate change. Anyway, another subject altogether. So excuse the cough. But I just listened to a 3-day event that this young lady put on, and I won't. Her name is Mandy Morris, and she does a manifestation thing. And it really, it didn't light my fire, but what it did do was really repeat over and over and over again the varying ways that we go into negativity, get out of positive vibration. Because I don't want to say positive thinking, because positive thinking is like, almost sounds like spiritual bypass. You know, it's not about positive thinking. It's about being in the positive. It's about living a life affirming existence and always affirming that life, always affirming that existence, the constant and ever evolving and expansion of life and me and you as an individuation of the one. So part of all of that is, what is your concept of the divine? What is your concept of that overarching creative intelligence? How do you refer to it? How do you relate to that, whatever you consider it to be? Is it the guy in the sky? Is it that overarching creative intelligence? Is it a volitional energy that decides to do what it does, which is basically all that intelligence does is create and create and create more. It's constantly expanding. That's why the scientists tell us the universe is constantly expanding, because the divine is always creating more. That's that universe. That's that volitional intelligence, that volitional energy, the overarching creative intelligence of the universe. That's how I look at it. That's what I see. What do you see? If you're in the comments here, let me know what your thoughts are. How do you look at it? And I like, is another acronym for from Wayne for one, the omnipresent nurturing energy. I love that. That's really good. So from this book, okay, this is I just read this this morning. The name of this chapter is Reach for God, and it's yeah, it is what it is. Here you go. This is the author. I've dropped God's name quite a few times in these last few chapters. Maybe it's time to talk directly about the deity. I'm going to suggest you reach for God in 2 ways. First, whatever your concept of God currently is, reach a little higher. Whatever you believe or perceive God to be is fine with me, from the bearded, omnipotent Father on the throne to the creative flowering of Mother Nature. Whatever it is, see if you can expand it just a little bit more. Second, reach for God in whatever form you feel God to be. If God is the power that grows plants and moves planets, fine. If God is the creator behind all that, fine. If God is the part of us that beats our heart and breathes our breath, fine. Reach into that power. Reach into that energy and spirit for support, solace, direction, and love. Relate to God in whatever way you choose, but do relate. Chat. Ask for things, listen for guidance, give love, receive joy, and just say thanks. At all times, say thanks. Give it a try. You have nothing to lose but your doubt. The following thoughts on God may start a few of your own. And that's just a bunches and bunches of quotes. I found that he does them in somewhat, not totally, but somewhat, there's some chronology to them. The first one goes back to someone who lived or wrote this, a teacher named Marikare or Marikare. I have no idea what language that is or where it's from, but this person lived in the vicinity of 2135 to 2140 BC. That's 2,000 years before Christ. That's over 4,000 years ago. In fact, it's 4,500 years ago is when this person lived. And this is his quote. Serve God that he may do the like for you. Now, I don't long ago stopped buying into the he thing. I don't believe that there is a gender to God. That's part of the patriarchy, just giving God a gender. And of course, what else would the patriarchy give God but a penis, make him a male? What else would they do? But the idea that in all ways serve God, to my way of thinking, never lose sight of God, never lose sight of the divine, never lose sight of the fact that we are an individuation of that one, of the overarching creative intelligence, and imbued with that creative ability through our oneness with it. God can do nothing for us unless it does it through us, in which case then we have to know, we have to learn, we have to totally get that it is an inside job. Everything comes from within out. I am learning at 72 freaking years old. I am learning to pray from the core, from source at my core, not to pray to something out here, because what is out here is also in here. There is no place where one ends and the other begins. It's all the one. So it's monumentally imperative to get a concept of what it is that is bigger than us, as Holmes says in the introductory chapters of The Science of Mind, the thing itself. And once there is a concept of that, to never lose sight of it, to never lose track of it, to always have it be a motivating force, an inspirational force, a source of inspirational action, to always have that be the point of cause, if you will. So that when you think in terms of God or the divine or spirit or the universe or the overarching creative intelligence, whatever it is, as Wayne put it earlier, the omnipresent nurturing energy, whatever you perceive that to be, have that be the place from which you launch your day, your life, your activity. I, for one, there's a whole series of affirmations. They probably take me 3 minutes in the morning that I do before my feet hit the floor. And I do some stretches as well while I'm doing it, because that's just stretches that when you get to be my age, you'll learn what the hell I'm talking about. But I do some stretches because I have issues with my back and blah, blah, blah. But I do all those affirmations first thing in the morning. And the first words that I speak, whether out loud or just in my head, are, "Good morning, God. Thank you for this day." Starting the day with some semblance of gratitude can only be a plus. It can only help. That's it. I think that's all I have for you today. It's just that piece. I wanted to get that out. I wanted to make that a point for each and every one of us. Remember, prayer, no matter how you pray, whether you do affirmative prayer like me or you do subjugate prayer, boy, unbelievable. You do traditional Judeo-Christian prayer, the bargaining thing. If you do that, begging, bargaining, however you do that, begging is the big one, I think. But get me out of this, God, I'll never do it again. Those kinds of things. But no matter how you pray, I don't care. Doesn't matter, whatever works for you. I mean, the reason there are so many different pathways to God is because God is the only place to go. God is the tip of the peak of the mountain, and we are all on the mountain on different pathways up to the top. It's the only place to go. So how you get there is not for me to say. But remember, however you are praying, that is you talking to the divine. My key piece, I think, for me personally, is the meditation that follows. And the meditation is listening for the answers, for the solutions to whatever it is that you have presented as your questions, as your thoughts. So, again, that's all I have for you today. I want you to always remember that New Thought Media Network is a nonprofit organization, and I don't know why that didn't happen. There it is. Go to ntmedia.org. That's newthoughtmedia.org. Click on donate, and we are always immensely grateful for anything and everything you bestow upon us. I want you to remember that this show is sponsored by HempWorks, the world's #1 direct-to-consumer distributor of CBD and hemp-infused products. It is, I haven't tried a lot of them. I've tried enough to know this is the premier CBD on the planet. I am always glad to help you out with this, answer questions, whatever. If you want to just find out more, go to my webpage, hempworks.com/Ken Ludwig, and you can learn more about this. You can always email me. If you email me, you go to teamrockitnow@gmail.com. Glad to answer your questions, help you in any way I can. By the way, HempWorks is part of a larger company that we refer to as the House of Brands, and the House of Brands is mydailychoice.com. That's underneath in the crawl. My Daily Choice is celebrating Mother's Day this year we have this. I don't know how to say this other than these are the best essential oils you'll find anywhere. I don't care what name brands you have. There are a few out there that have big names in the world. Nothing, literally nothing compared to these essential oils. We have this one's called Breathe. It is a blend of essential oils. For my seasonal allergies, I can dab it under my nose. It helps, and it helps a lot. This one here is lavender, and it is pure, 100% pure lavender, the cleanest essential oils you're going to find. I've been told that they last longer than the best known name in the business. They last longer, and they're more potent than that, is what I have been told. And actually, I was told that by somebody who sold the other brand. Find me on Instagram, Evolving Hippie, Evolving_Hippie. Let's hope that's what I am. That's who I am. We have, I have more comments here. Shay, you're welcome. I'm glad you joined us. I hope you will join us again. And Wayne, always a pleasure to have you on board here. And let's see, what else did I want you to know? I think we covered all the bases. Let's get rid of my sponsorship banner and put up the donate banner for you once again. Please, we are grateful for whatever you give us. ntmedia.org. Just click donate and give us whatever you're inclined to give us. As always, I am immensely grateful for the great gift of your time and your attention. I wish you all the love and all the blessings the universe has to offer. I hope you will join me next Thursday and every Thursday for another chapter of Vibrant Living. Until then, my friends, namaste. Have a fabulous rest of your day.